This video is the last video in a series that we created for the Handbook for Social Work Writing. It covers Chapter 1, Writing for Class Assignments, and the previous videos that we created each singularly addressed one of the first 4 steps in this writing process. In steps 5 through 7, we put this all together in a single video because you're probably going to be doing these in fairly close succession because you're really at this point getting ready to submit your final assignment. And so we want to talk about using APA style to format your papers, then that final proofreading, and then finally submitting the assignment itself. So let's spend a couple of minutes talking about APA style. First of all, you want to determine what your instructor requires. You may or may not be aware that APA style covers a lot of different topics. It has to do with citations, but it also has to do with formatting of title pages and running heads, headings within the body of paper, tables, figures. That's all encompassed in APA style. So find out, if you haven't already, what your instructor wants in terms of APA style. But almost all instructors require that citations are in APA style, and that means both in the body of your paper as well as in a references section. By the way, much more of this is covered in Chapter 5 in the handbook. I'm just going to cover a little bit here to get you thinking about this, but you do need to pay attention to formatting these citations, and if you need help with that, we cover a lot in Chapter 5. Okay, I am going to give you some basics here. And the first thing you should know is that everything that you cite in the body of your paper must appear in your references section. And every entry in your references section must appear in the body of your paper. So nothing that informs your work but isn't actually cited, nothing should be in your references section. So if you read something and it informs your thought process, but you don't actually cite it in your body of your paper, you should not be putting it in your references section. This is something that students get confused about very frequently. And finally, anytime you use an idea that is not your own and it is not common knowledge, you must use citation, a citation, or one or more citations. So what do we mean by common knowledge? Common knowledge is common knowledge for the general public and not for, say, social work specifically. So if you refer to, systems theory and say, oh, well, everybody in social work knows that, they might, but that's not considered common knowledge. Common knowledge would be something like a day is 24 hours long, or the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That's common knowledge and doesn't need to be cited. So there's really 2 different ways to create citations in the bodies of your paper, and that's by using either paraphrasing or directly quoting. So in paraphrasing, what you're doing is you're summarizing or putting others' ideas in your own words. And paraphrasing generally in classrooms is in class settings is often preferable to directly quoting because it really demonstrates that you are synthesizing the material and you know what you're talking about, where we get less of a sense of that with direct quoting. So if you're paraphrasing or summarizing someone else's ideas and putting them in your own words, the format for that in-text citation would be author, comma, year. Now, direct quotes are a little bit different, and to be clear, direct quotes are any series of words that are taken directly from a source, and those must be put between quotation marks. If we don't see quotation marks, then we think it's paraphrased, and this is where students can sort of get into some trouble in terms of plagiarizing, because technically, even if you cite it, if you don't say that it was a direct quote, it is we're thinking it's your original ideas. You only want to use direct quotes when the specific wording that you're using is important, meaning you really can't say it better any other way, because it really doesn't give us a sense as you understand fully what the idea is being conveyed. And so you see in articles that you read, there are very few direct quotes, Most often people paraphrase when they're citing others. And the format for this citation is a little bit different. Because it's a direct quote, we need to know where exactly it comes from in the source. So that would be formatted as author, comma, year, and then what's unique is then you put the page or paragraph number where you found that quote. So these are just the basics, and actual formatting of both in-text citations and references is based on the number of authors, and you should refer to chapter 5 as a start, and from there you might need the APA style guide, but you might be able to get exactly what you need for formatting your references page and in-text citations from chapter 5. So you'll want to make sure as you're writing your final draft that you have all your citations in place, and then you're really ready to do your final proofreading. And we have several helpful hints that you may want to consider. The first is that you actually proofread your assignment out loud. When you do that, you should only be reading what is written on your screen or on the page. And this is where you often will catch your own mistakes, because then you're reading exactly what you're saying and not what you think you're saying. When we proofread silently, we tend to fill in missing ideas or words because we're not hearing them. If you proofread aloud, you tend to hear it and catch these mistakes pretty easily. You want to try to proofread your final time twice. The first time, look for content. Make sure you're saying exactly what you want to be saying and conveying the ideas that you want to convey. The second time through, look for your spelling and grammar and punctuation and capitalization, and tools that we refer to in chapter 4, such as Grammarly, can be very helpful at this point. Now's the time to pay attention to all the little squiggles and suggestions that an editing tool may provide for you. And if you have a grading rubric, pre-grade your own paper and see where you think your paper is strong and where it's weak. And now, after you do all that, now it's time to trade assignments, your final draft with your writing partner, and use the grading rubric and grade your partner's paper. When you do that, provide as much detail as you can, and then swap papers back and read the comments made by your writing partner. Use that feedback to make final edits to your paper. And then it's time to submit your paper. Pay close attention to your final due dates. If your school uses Turnitin or a similar plagiarism detection tool, read your report closely. Just because you get a green doesn't mean that you may not have inadvertently plagiarized. Look at all the things they highlight to make sure that you don't have too many words in a row, and pay attention to it. I, as well as many of my colleagues, really will only read the final submission that a student makes. And so use that Turnitin tool to your advantage. And then finally, submit your paper. And you should celebrate. Writing papers for social work school is difficult. It is time consuming. And really take a moment to breathe and enjoy the fruits of your hard work. We think by following these 7 steps for writing assignments, you will get better grades, better results, and you'll learn the material better. And we hope you found this video helpful.